What up? Whoa, whoa, whoa. I didn't practice that. What up, what up, what up? It is another episode of the Shark Cove. It is a Friday night. We are running a little bit behind, a little bit short on time because the slate starts early. I do apologize. Had some technical difficulties, was running late in the first place. Then the camera wasn't working, the microphone wasn't working. And I think at some point my headphones are probably going to go out too. So, nevertheless, here we are. What an incredible day we had. Not really. It wasn't really incredible. Some of the results were kind of incredible, but the end result for me at least wasn't so great. The LPL LCK slate was a travesty. The LEC slate was a travesty in different ways. I've seen a couple people make the comment that that there's a ton of variance, or video games are unpredictable, and there's some truth to that. But man, didn't the G2 game felt like a trap, didn't it? Like, there is some value, and it's very obvious value in fading some of these high expected games. JDG last night, LNG to some lesser extent, but JDG and then G2 later on. And one of the things that you have to understand when you are looking at this and you're trying to get away from these games is that what if they did hit? What if they did and you had a piece of it? Great. That doesn't mean that you're going to win everything. In fact, it's even less likely that you would win something. Well, I guess it would be less likely if you had a worse score, but like, I'll give you an example. I had some Rogue Astralis. I had a ton of Rogue XL. I had a fair amount of Rogue, like a third of my lineups were Rogue lineups, but they were just the wrong way. They were put together incorrectly, and I had a big bulk of them. So even if you're a person that's only playing a handful of lineups, you might say, well, Chris, like, I only play one or two lineups, so I want to play the chalk because I want the best expectancy, and that's fine. Go play double ups, go play cash, play heads up, maybe get a little spicy and play some winner take alls. But if you're expecting to win in the $15 or whatever the main GPP is, I think you're going about things wrong if you're doing that. We've talked about it, but I just felt like it was another time to bring that up because I know we do have some new viewers, some people that are trying to learn the game, the ins and outs. And what I would tell you, if you are one of those people, go back into some of the earlier streams of the Shark Cove before it was Esports with Emmerich, and then it turned into Shark Cove. Like, one of the first 5 episodes, there was an episode where me, Nathan, and James McCool go over a lot of different information in regards to projections and certain things that go into the probabilities and maybe get you into a way of thinking. And then maybe go watch the episode with Dave Potts. Cheese is Good. You see his name up there all the time. He's $1 million winner, not in esports, but maybe he's going to get there if he keeps it up for long enough. But he doesn't even watch the games, and it's just trying to pick out the winners is insanely difficult. But understanding that you're going to get the winners wrong a lot, and instead trying to pick losers, sometimes you're going to end up landing on winners, if that makes any type of sense. So, without further ado, let's go ahead. Let's hop into this. Who's later for the party, Emmerich tonight, or Icon to the Dragon with the Corky package? I think it's going to have to be Icon. We waited a whole split for that. You guys waited an extra 15, 20 minutes for me. But I understand. I get it. Let's look at the first game. Here we are. What a predicament we have. We have Weibo Gaming as a mega favorite, probably rightfully so, minus 315. Rare Adam plus 235. Who likes to play Rare Adam? Who likes to bet Rare Adam? I don't like to play him anymore. I don't like to bet him anymore. They just don't seem to have a tremendous amount of upside. When we look at some of the things that Rare Adam has done, I don't know, man. Like, here's my take on it. I know that there are some Rare Adam truthers still out there, and I was one of the originals. It's time I step off, and I've said it before, but iBoy is just a complete liability. It's a new word I just taught my wife in English. It was really more the movie I had to explain what a liability was. But nevertheless, man, I just have a hard time here. Let's take a look under the hood. and let's see what's going on with these two teams so far this year. Can you get $1? No, Ghost Rider, you can't. I'm sorry. If it had been better, maybe. Wish me some good luck, and maybe I'll give you $1 tomorrow. Let's see. iBoy is the ADC version of Live. Yeah, I mean, sure. I like it. Let's see. So here we are. Rare Adam. Had a couple games. Had some ups, had some downs, but, a lot of downs against up. So when I look at this team, they have the series against OMG, but we don't think OMG is very good, despite what happened today. And we're not going to go over it, but just despite what happened today, I don't think OMG is a top-tier team. So a win by RA against OMG doesn't necessarily impress me all that much. I thought that maybe that they were, coming into form. They beat up 12-4. I had a ton of RA that day, and I was feeling pretty good. They lose 15-21, no big deal, kind of be expected. Would have liked a sweep, but whatever the case is. And then the third game's even worse, 3-22, and there's just not a lot to like here from a team that when they win 15 or 16 kills. This was not a ultra kill heavy team back in spring either. They just look out of sorts. The thing is, when I look at some of these teams that look out of sorts, I look at the talent that's on the team, and I don't think iBoy is good. Leanne is all right. Cube, I think, is decent. And I think Strive is a guy that definitely fucks, but there's just so much going against him on that team that it's hard to kind of back it. And then we've got Weibo. Weibo's had 2 soft games against IG and WE, and then 2 tougher opponents in EDG and RNG. Now they've been able to win the series against the bad teams. They've been able to be semi-competitive, maybe in some of their other series, not so much against EDG. They almost did. It wasn't a high-scoring series, but one of the things that I look at here is Weibo, my gosh, they have a 19.4 kills per win right now. Now, some of that is bolstered by the 2 games against IG, but still 18, 24, 18, 15. I mean, you're seeing it right here on the screen as clear as I am. The other component is they don't die a ton. So that's bad for RA. And if they do lose, I mean, they're pretty average in terms of their kill total. They're the first game of the day. And, I am a narrative guy. The first game always breaks the slate, right? Just sucks when you have, 30% Astralis, but like 100% Vizisachi. That's not the way to do it. But anyway, so I like Weibo here. They're a team I'm considering. I think that they'll be semi-popular, but maybe not. Maybe there is this belief that Weibo doesn't produce a lot of kills in their games. And I mean, that's what I believed after this one. That's what I believed, last year. But, these last 2 series, they've kind of shown a different light. They've been a team that does produce some kills. They had some kills in that first series. So let's just go ahead and put that to the side and take a look at the derivatives on this or the other parts of it. So they are favored by, let's see, 6.5, 7.5, 7.5. I think it's a good number. If they do get a lot of kills and Rare Adam doesn't, produce a lot of kills, I think that's a number that you can attack. Now, if you feel like Rare Adam's going to win, I think maybe buying up the spread until, or buying, you don't even buy the spread at that point. You have, they don't offer the other side of it. So never mind. Sorry, it's late. Let's go look at the totals. 23.5. Yeah, man, I think I'm going to take the over on this. Let's take a look again. 27, 27, 22, 24, 23, 19. Yeah, I mean, how many games are you going to get where the opponent only gets 1 kill? Going back to RA, there's 7, 19. That's 26, just off of that base number right there. RA is giving up quite a few kills. I kind of like it. I kind of like that number. I think I am going to take the over on that series and hope that we don't get like a 9-7 game or a 3-13, all within the realm of possibility. But let's move on. Let's move on to the next game. Got Damwon and T1. This is probably one that some people are kind of excited to see some top tier teams in the LCK, but will this produce any type of fantasy relevance? And I'm not sure that it will. When we look at these two teams, we've got a pretty close line. We've got some over-under set around that 21.5 number, not a number to be excited about. And when we look at these teams and what they've done so far this year, Damwon has been just a black hole for fantasy points. Somehow they'll get there in one or two slates, but this team in their games, that 21.5 almost seems like a number that you want to attack. Even against a top-tier talented team like Gen G, their totals were under 21. So, T1 hasn't necessarily been tested in the same fashion. We've got Nongshim, who's just been an incredibly bloody team. We've got KT, a mid-tier team, and Sandbox. And what it comes down to really is, honestly, it's these three teams and, when they get to play each other. So I don't know. This is not one that I'm super excited about playing in DFS. It's not necessarily one that I want to bet too much. I think if I am going to bet it, I would probably look at, going ahead and laddering a couple of these, trying to grab a few. Didn't work out so well with Gen G and Bro yesterday. So I don't recommend going too crazy on it. We did, we're up on it. We're up. So I don't know if we want to test our luck with that one. But the other game in the LCK, and I think one that presents an interesting situation when we're looking at some of the salaries later on for DFS, is Live Sandbox versus KT. KT a big favorite here, minus 225, plus 145 to sweep. I kind of like this number right here. No, that's not I don't know if that's a shark. That might be like a tuna fish or something like that. Still up there in the food chain, but yeah, man, just the kills per win. I can't get behind it. I can't get behind it. But we're looking at Live Sandbox, and man, both of these two teams, we had some hope for Sandbox, right? They do this thing to us. It almost seems like every split. And by every split, I mean just the last two, where, they open the season with a win, a 30-kill win, 31 kills in this situation, but a sweep. I think on a day that kind of screwed with a lot of people. Might have even won a GPP or so, because the LCK has a tendency to do that. But then they just go on the streak, and they are who we thought they are. But, to give them a little bit of a life raft, something to throw out there, they did play Damwon and T1. I think that's kind of to be expected. Now they're playing KT, but when we look at KT, what have they done? They got rolled by Gen G, should have won some of those games. Put up a good series against T1, should have won maybe that series as well. And then just, in a rather boring fashion, beat Bro. So do I think KT can 2-0 Sandbox? I absolutely do. I think that, and I don't even know if I have it pulled up still. I don't. I'm not going to go look for it. But if we look back at Sandbox, in fact, I'll pull it up right here. What am I talking about? LCK. Let's grab LCK. Let's bring this up. Let's go look at the spring season. I know. It's super small. Chill out. Let's give it a minute. It's going to take a second. It's okay. So let's go take a look at Sandbox. See, there's that 2-0. No, I don't need to take the survey. 2-0, they get 0-2'd. They beat KT, get 0-2'd, won a game, got swept. We go down here, win a series, get swept. I mean, there's just a lot of sweeps that happen, okay? Even against Bro, KT. I mean, just this is... I don't know. I think I'm going to take a wager there. That might not be. Yeah, I think I'm going to take the plus 145. I like it. There's your winner in the LCK. Both of these teams seem kind of weirdly relevant for the DFS equation. We'll talk about it. I don't think I want to touch any part of these totals around 21.5. I guess if you want to hedge it, and if you are playing it in DFS and you're one of those people that feels like they're cursed when they play certain teams, because look, I know the feeling all too well, maybe just take some of the unders so you can wake up tomorrow morning and be like, KT 2-0, that's awesome. I'm glad I have them in my 4-stack. And then you see that they put up like 65 points somehow in 2 games because they have 15 combined kills. But you feel good knowing that you have your plus 160 at under 19.5. Let's get into some games that have a little bit more attention. We've got FPX and Top Esports. This is going to be one that, it's hard to get away from. Projecting this top, I think, comes out as the highest projected team on the slate. This over-under is set at, around 24.5, which is pretty high for over-unders these days. And when we go peer into it, Top doesn't necessarily stand out as a team that gets a ton of kills all the time, but they have that range, 23 to 8 and everything in between. But I think what's really more indicative to me is kind of these numbers from FPX. Now, granted, they have a pretty low range themselves, the 14, 15s, but they've allowed a lot of these 18s, even a 25 and a 23. So this is a team that, can absolutely grief when given the opportunity. And Top Esports is absolutely a team that can take advantage of that. There is some fear, as always, that I don't know about you, but when it comes to Top Esports and me, I always feel like this team is never as good as we think they are. They're never as good as the betting markets think they are. They're just never what we think they are. Maybe they're just a slightly worse version of it. Maybe they're a much worse version of it. But I'm always just ready for them to break my heart. And I feel like tomorrow morning could be one of those days. They're ultra expensive. So, if you are trying to fit them into DFS, you might have to get a little creative. That's where that Sandbox and KT come into play. But moving on, in regards to kind of like the betting on this, I'm probably not touching anything. These numbers are a little bit too high. I would imagine if I opened up Gelati's article right now, he'd probably be on FPX plus 1.5. We talked about it last week. The spreads are something that hit at a pretty high rate. And FPX is a good team. I just don't think they're a good team over the course of a best of 3. They're a good enough team, and we've seen it against RNG where they can take a game, but they don't have that cohesiveness to play clean for 2 games like we did see earlier this week with LGD and TT. Maybe they're better than that. I suspect that they are. But tomorrow, I'm thinking I'm riding with Top Esports. But I don't think you need to force them in the same way that I felt like I needed to force in JDG, and part of the reason it didn't work out well for me yesterday. Yeah, absolutely. I wish Hang, had a death prop on Prize Picks. We could probably clean up on that. If Livmo did too. So it would just be absolute crazy. Can you imagine Hang, iBoy, and Livmo on the same slate? Man, that's a flex picks dream. Let's see. Victory 5 and RNG. Victory 5 has looked good. They've got a couple wins. RNG, they faltered out of the gate there. They dropped that game against FPX. They dropped a game to Weibo. But outside of that, they've looked pretty clean when they're taking care of business. Not necessarily the highest kill team, whereas V5 has kind of been that team outside of 2 separate games where they really laid a dud. And I guess the fear that you have is that if they do that in a series, which they've shown now 2 times, it just kills you. It kills your upside, especially if they end up dropping a game too. Like, let's say they open this game, this is what they do. They drop the next game. Even if they put up like a 28 the next game, it's just not so good. And it's really hard to kind of project how they're going to be in losses, except for, to me, I kind of look at these 2 games because I don't have any other data as their losses. And so they are putting up in the high teens, or allowing up in the high teens deaths when they lose. Because let's face it, those games were close to being lost. The other team just kind of threw it back to them. Whereas RNG just doesn't have enough data on 17 and 22. I don't think you can make any type of leaps or assumptions off of that, but you can see that when Victory 5 wins, they get a lot of kills. So, look, without further ado, we've looked at that. We've analyzed it. It's still early. It's nice to have this, but let's go ahead. Let's take a look at the projections. Let's take a look at the models. Now, to no surprise, I'm just opening a beer. But no, to no surprise, we are missing a player in the player pool. So RIP, our brother Breathe, still not added. I just don't have the energy to continually email them the exact same thing over and over and over again. But so I digress. We'll just have to deal without that. Let's talk about it from a cash standpoint. I know some of you guys are big cash players, and you want to know who you're going to play against the guy that we only know as a first name, last initial. What are you going to do? Well, let's take a look at it. Biggest favorite, Top Esports, right? Who's the next biggest favorite? We got Weibo at minus 315. Probably not playing that one, right? Yeah. All right, so it's Weibo at plus 315. And honestly, I think that this puts together a pretty good lineup for you. Yeah, don't forget about the Shy. Yeah, you're right. In Prize Picks, that would be wonderful. They did forget about Zoom. Zoom didn't win, though. So I don't know if anybody really wants to remember that. So when we're looking at Weibo and Top, we've got a total of 504.84. If we go to a ceiling projection instead, 578. We're looking at the top. So it looks like if you want to get 4 TS into your stack, you are taking a Wayward captain. You're taking the Shy captain. And like, this is fine for cash. I think that this is also fine if you're okay with a large amount of risk in GPPs, because you do need a lot to go in your favor. Like, look, for you to win a GPP, even a 100-man GPP, the way that LOL is structured, not only do you need both of your teams to win in a certain fashion, but the other teams to win and lose in certain fashions. And then you need the right components to also win, right? Like, there is a lot to it. The likelihood of all those things, not great, right? You can do things to improve that likelihood and improve the probability. But I will tell you, by captaining a top captain, I feel like you're actually lowering that probability. Now you are increasing your uniqueness. For some folks, that's all they're looking for, and you get a better, win equity when you win. But yeah, I don't know. I'm a little salty. I played a lot of top captains yesterday. But if we are going with the just regular projected, you're looking at an SOFM captain for Weibo. You got Wayward, Tian, and Knight. So that's okay. Like 504, let's take a look at some other things. What can we do? Can we go with KT? What does KT give us? 490. That's absolutely disgusting. I don't want that. Let's go to RNG. All right. Hey, man, I'm not hating on it. You got a Ming for 480 for whatever, it's 484.90. 491. So yeah, I mean, like, look, if you want to play top, if that is a team that you want to play in your cash games, and you should, they're the biggest favorite on the slate. FPXs look like trash. Top Esports, I drafted them all in my best ball leagues. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the lineup. But if you wanted to think outside the box, are there higher projected ones? I mean, this feels better. This feels better from a GPP or winner take all, just on the basis that you're getting a Hung Fung captain, just a carry as opposed to SOFM or Wayward. So we're looking at 481 there. Let's take a look here. 472. That kind of sucks. Feels kind of bad if you're doing something like that. I don't think I want to go that way. What about this? 495. I like it. What do we got over here? 503. Man, is there a way that we can manipulate this a little bit between the two of them? No, you can't. You can't go Ming here. Could you go up to Gala? You could go up to Gala. I don't have Gala projected necessarily as well, but I think that this is a nice little build here. These aren't, I mean, I don't hate that for a GPP. I don't like it for necessarily cash, but look, to round this out, these are a couple builds that we have here. I think this right here or this right here, one of those two, or some derivative, or deviation of one of these two lineups, is probably where I'd land in cash. Now, like I said, in GPPs, winner take alls, I mean, this is sexy. This is interesting. I like that quite a bit. I like this quite a bit. I think I don't want to be involved in this game right here all that much, unless you're MMEing like the main. Then maybe you could do something. Like I know that we had mentioned DWG 4 stacks. Let's see what we can do with Damwon. 565 as a ceiling. It's not a great one. Like if we were just looking at this. 483. I don't hate it. You get 4 RNG, you get Nuguri. Maybe he pops off, has a big game. Showmaker has it in him, and maybe Damwon gets a bunch of dragons. I don't know. Like that's not a cash lineup, though. When we take a look at the way that these projected, if you want the projections, they are up in the Discord, the esports department Discord. Yeah, so top scoring top is Wayward, Jalahu in a win. We've got Rich, who's done a lot better recently, but it does look like the Shy scores a little bit better to me in a sweep, and no surprise there. Look, when Weibo loses, the Shy dies quite a bit, as we mentioned right here. Don't forget the Shy, right? So that's kind of why there is that difference between the two. Tian scoring really well there. KT though, Cuz is up there. Strive, but Arya's down here. Yeah, you see what I did to iBoy. Give me a top laner. Yeah, I mean, look, you just gotta hope, man. And then you see that Gnar locked in, and it's just good night. There was somebody that I wanted to mention. Oh, so my projection here on Karsa, I do feel like that this is a little bit low, but like I bumped it up artificially. This isn't where it actually lands. It's hard to kind of figure out what to do with him and Dream, just because I did feel like that he was going to take a step up and be more of like the primary carry for the team in Rookie's absence. And he really was in the last series. It wasn't the case in the first series. But, looking back at that data and what happened in that first series, I don't know if it's like if you can really, extrapolate anything from a series that had a 7-8 and 26 total kills. So I think if you are going to play Victory 5, and I think Victory 5 is going to be less popular than they have been on other slates, given the fact that they're playing RNG, I think Karsa Captain is a place that you can go. And I only mention that because you're going to have the option of doing whatever you want with RNG. I mean, you can put it with Top Esports, who's the most expensive, and you can get a Knight Captain. I don't know if I would have Tian here. I think I would change this around, but yeah, and that's true. It's true. I mean, you can get your ADC locking in Scion these days. It doesn't happen as much in DFS. It does happen in the ERLs quite a bit. Thank God for that, because I'm telling you though, I think the ERLs would make a great DFS product. I think the games are infinitely more fun to watch than some of the major leagues. Not necessarily the LPL, but certainly more fun than the LCS, in my opinion. It would make a great DFS product. I tried, guys. They won't do it. Shit, we can't even get full contests for the LPL on a 5-game slate overnight on a Saturday with no other sports going. We're not going to get an LFL one. So running back through these, it's difficult to talk by yourself sometimes for 29 minutes. Thank you for all sticking with me here. Weibo RA. Would anybody be surprised if RA won the series? I mean, I wouldn't, but I think Weibo wins this. I think they handle it. I think Damwon has a real shot of beating T1, although I think what we're going to end up getting is 1 or 2 really, really low kill games, and we're going to have 1 Fiesta game. I wouldn't discount it from DFS for that reason in large scale GPPs. I would want some exposure because I do think, let's say just for instance, like what's the range? How does this happen? How does this end up in the optimal lineup? First of all, Weibo and RA. While I've made a case that both of these teams are going to create a environment where Weibo can thrive and be good, let's say RA wins. Let's say that they win in 3. What do they put up? 50, 60, 70 points? Nothing exciting. Weibo's at 40 or 50 points in that scenario. Or maybe Weibo doesn't have a high kill game. They end up being the Weibo that we all believe that they are. And maybe it's like maybe 27, 28 total kills between 2 games. Maybe it's 32. Maybe the kill participation isn't there. Maybe you just don't have the right piece. I don't know what the situation is, but that game ends up not being, a game that ends up in the optimal. You've got FPX and Top Esports. Maybe something similar happens there, or maybe Top just, plays a really clean game. Nobody ints, nobody griefs. They win, 2-0, 16-4, both games. And, you got a 32 kill total, which is great. It's okay. That's fine if you were a mid-price team or, a dog. But being the highest price team with the highest expectation, that creates a lot of problems. I think that those scenarios, like a 16-4 sweep in both of these teams, is realistically what you can expect. Maybe one of the games pops off, but if one of the games pops off and gets like a 21 kill total, I think the other one evens it out with a 9. So you're still around that, 30 kills. So we're at 28 to 32 kills for all of our winners so far. So now we have this series right here, which I don't see a lot of scenarios where this doesn't end up with a 30-plus kill game or a 30-plus kill end set for the winner. If it's in 2 games, if it's in 3 games, I think that this has a great chance of being in the optimal. And so the other 3 aren't. This game is. And then what happens in this? Let's say T1 wins the first game. They win the first game, I don't know, like 16-8 in a 35-minute, 40-minute game. The next game, Damwon wins like 10-6 or 10-7, 10-8, 12-10, something like that. Enough points that part of T1 gets 20 points in that game. Everybody has 500 farm because the game has gone so long. But then that third game, things just open up. And you end up getting like a 22-14 win for T1. That's how T1 ends up in the winning lineup, even though it doesn't feel like that, even though it's not projected. Just some food for thought. I was watching World War Z. Part of the reason I was late, actually. A variety of reasons, but that was one. And there's a part in it where they talk about the 10th man. And, it's interesting because it is something that I think applies to DFS and betting, that basically if 9 people all agree on one thing, it is the responsibility for that 10th person to operate on the assumption that they're all wrong and take a look at it from a different way. Well, you've got to be your own 10th man. You don't got 10 people, around your kitchen table or in your living room or even in the Discord, because all we do is troll now, right? Nobody's going to help you like that. So you need to, if all the signs are pointing at like this is what's going to happen, you got to be that 10th man for yourself and say, hey, maybe that's not what's going to happen. And this is what's going to happen instead. And how can I position myself in such a manner to take advantage of that scenario when it does, in fact, happen? You see it a lot with some of those top people in DFS, not just in league, but you're like, how did they know? How did they know? Well, they didn't know. That's how they knew. Let's take a look at some comments. Saber is easy to use. Yeah, look, there are some really cool features about Fantasy Labs that I wish that they would keep up with their product or even have some of the same stats for some of the sports that they used to. One of the things that I like, for example, like, the model part was cool like a long time ago, but it's not anymore. But like, for example, I love this ability right here. Just being able to look at all the game logs, all the stats, everything that they have. It's super helpful for NFL. And then the defense, it has all the totals, what they allowed particular positions. They used to have all this other cool data that they don't have anymore for baseball. It was super awesome. And the other thing that I really like, and I know that you can do this to some extent, but like you can set your exposure You can just X out a player altogether, and so he doesn't even show up. And then you can go back and just min-max your exposures and rerun stuff. So it's super helpful. I've used it for a long time. Again, I probably won't renew this next time when it comes up here in about 2 or 3 months. So yeah, I agree with you there. Let's see, what else do we got? Agreed. Yeah, I mean, maybe Will can get me a sponsorship, and I can put Saber on here for you guys. We can get some referral codes. It'd be wonderful. FPX will win. Look, maybe Ghost, if I give you $1, will you bet on FPX for me? Will you do that? In fact, that's what I'm going to do every single night after I figure out what my teams are and I put together my lineups, Ghost. I'm going to send you a couple dollars to wager. I'm going to tell you the teams I need you to wager on, and we'll see what kind of powers you have. We'll see just how much your cooler ability can help grow my money, my bankroll, and then I'll give you a percentage. Sound like a deal? I like it. I like it. All right, let's run through a couple of these games, not for a DFS standpoint, but let's look at the LEC. We had a pretty interesting slate today. We've got SK versus Misfits. Holy shit. We've got Misfits still as a favorite. SK not looking much better. Misfits at minus 125. Man, I don't really want any part of this. One of the things that I would say is that, lost in everything is that Misfits came back from so many deficits last split to get wins that maybe they didn't have any business winning, and they're just not finding the ability to do that. There's just not the same type of continuity. They looked like they wanted to do it against Rogue today. What that does mean, though, is they don't roll over and die. They don't allow you to just beat them. And so they do grief a lot of kills. I think if you're not playing SK in a certain portion of your lineups, you're going to be kind of foolish for that. Mad Lions and Excel, this one looks like a pretty baller game. Now, I think Mad Lions have a bit of a reputation that dates back to last year in terms of being a fast team. I looked back at their spring, and this was not a team that had a lot of kills and wins, not a team that had a lot of kills and losses, not necessarily a team that I wanted to attack, despite the fact that I think it's sexy right now to attack Excel. And I think Excel at plus 110, I'm going to ride this. I like Excel. I'm betting Excel. I'm probably playing SK in DFS. Second game, not playing. Astralis and Rogue, look, how do you not play Astralis, right? Like they look good. Maybe Rogue's found their mojo. But at plus 270, that's too big to not bet. BDS does not get a 2-0. Lightning does not strike twice. Fnatic wins that game. And BDS has not been a team that has given up a ton of deaths so far. If we go take a look at the LEC, it's not updated from today, but like these games for BDS, 12, 12, and 11, not exactly super exciting. This is part of the reason that I wasn't all in on G2, is that I thought that they could lose. I thought a lot of people would have them. And even if they won, I wasn't so sure that they were going to have a tremendous amount of kills. So, I was that 10th man for myself, just not good enough. G2 and Vitality, I don't know. If G2 wins this game today, like this number has to be a lot bigger. I think you can lay the minus 193 for G2 here. I think you play G2 in DFS. I just don't think Vitality's good. They just don't have it. That's the gist of that. So I don't think Scuggs is here today. I don't think so. Let's go over to the LCS. 100 Thieves, Golden Guardians. 100 Thieves minus 300. Golden Guardians plus 220. Golden Guardians look all out of sorts. And when you just look up and down this roster, Licorice has his moments where he's playing well, but overall, I don't think that he's the guy that he was a couple years ago. Pride Stalker, I think he's in kind of a bad situation, or maybe he's not that good. 6A just doesn't belong on the team, and 100 Thieves, I think that they've kind of found the way that they want to play in this meta, and I think it suits them a lot better than the spring split meta did. For whatever reasons, there are players that are more comfortable on certain champions, and despite Jinx being one of the easier ADCs, it seemed like, to pilot. It made Neon look good, made a series of these ADCs look good. And it was partially my fear with Flakked, Unforgiven, Comp, these guys coming into the summer split. Would they be able to utilize some of these other champions? And I know some of them, like Unforgiven played Varus and some other things. And that was just a worry that I had. It's the exact opposite for FBI. This guy is just not good on Jinx for whatever reason. Now he doesn't have to play him or play against him. So I like things for 100 Thieves here. TSM versus Team Liquid. Why not? Just bet on TSM. It's plus 295. I think Team Liquid wins this game, but crazier things have happened at plus 295. Yeah, I think that's worthwhile. EG versus Immortals. No team cost me more money last weekend than Immortals. First and foremost, they scored enough points to just barely insert me preceding Saturday Slop Fest, and it was a Slop Fest indeed. The next day, I went to that well, going into the last game, and I know many of you that are watching, stacked Kenvi, stacked PoE, had a little bit of revenge, had the parts of it, and going into that last game, it felt good. There's nothing better than having that late game hammer, except for when you don't have a hammer, all you have is a fly swatter. Absolutely looked lost. Kenvi does look lost. They talked about it, I think, whether it was on Double Lift stream or maybe the actual cast, but he's just out of position in a lot of places. And it's crazy because, they take these guys from, what they call amateur, academy, but they're playing semi-professionally. They should be making mistakes that only happen in solo queue. They are playing an organized game, albeit a little bit more chaotic, but maybe it's just bad luck. Maybe it's nerves. Maybe, he'll work through that, but you would have thought that maybe he would work through any initial nerves, especially after they picked up that win in the second game. EG just looks to be firing on all cylinders. That number is huge. Out of principle, you can throw like a 0.25 at that or a half. But in DFS, I imagine EG is going to be the most expensive. They're going to be owned. People are going to find a way to play them, and rightfully so. The other darling of the LCS and the league, and somebody that people are going to want to play, is that CLG versus Flyquest. I think I'm taking CLG at even money here against Flyquest. Yeah, I think it's a bit of a mirage. I don't think they're as good as maybe some people are giving them credit for. But there's a couple things that we have to understand. We are making decisions with incomplete data. You cannot wait until all the data is there to make a decision, because if you have all of the data to make the decision, everybody else has all of the data and they'll make the same decision as you. You need to take a leap of faith. You need to make some conviction calls, or maybe less conviction calls. I think CLG is good. I'm going to play them, but I also want to make a conviction call earlier. I'm probably not going to have a whole lot of RA. I won't have anything in higher stakes. I'm going to have a couple hedge lineups, but man, I just don't think RA is good. I think it's a down split for them. I think Misfits are going to be the same way. Sometimes the team that was good just isn't good for whatever reason. You flip a lot of tails. You just don't have the right chemistry, and maybe the CLG team didn't have the chemistry last split. We know Palafox has talent. We know Luger is probably one of the better ADCs within the LCS. Contracts is ultra aggressive, and this team was due to play a little bit better with some type of consistency. And I don't think that this Flyquest team has the magic that they did at the beginning of Spring Split. I think that they've come down to earth, and then they've put Phil up in the top lane. Dokla is just going to dunk all over that dude. So that's that. I mean, they don't have the other line. What is it? Dignitas and who's Dignitas playing? Who's the other team? Somebody help me. Why am I drawing a blank here? Cloud9. Dignitas and Cloud9. And probably because we don't know who's going to play for Cloud9. But I'm venturing to guess it is their full roster. So I'm going to be backing Cloud9 in there. Just we'll see what kind of line it is. But I don't know if they're going to necessarily be all that aggressive. If you remember last year, Cloud9 had a couple good games where it was against like Team Liquid or somebody like that they went very deep into the game. I don't know if they're going to do that against Dignitas, another team that just doesn't look like they have any of the mojo that they had in spring, and there wasn't a ton of it for them even then. They've looked like they just had incredibly bad reads on the meta dating back to spring, different metas. I don't like anything about them. I don't think Cloud9 scores very highly in that win, though. So that's it. That's all we got. I will talk to you guys quite possibly tomorrow. I will let you know if we have a show. We may not. If not, then I'll see you on Tuesday. But other than that, I'm out.